Welcome to the podcast where we dive into some really wild narratives. Today, we're exploring the story of a religion that often reads like a sci-fi epic, Mormonism.
Yep, right. It's fascinating how a story packed with golden plates, magical hats, and ancient civilizations still draws millions.
Absolutely. We start with Joseph Smith, this 17-year-old farm boy who claims that God and Jesus appeared to him out in the woods and told him that, well, every church was corrupt. And then he discovers buried golden plates, which he says contain a whole other history of ancient Israelites coming to America.
And get this, the plates were written in something called Reformed Egyptian, right? Only Joseph could translate them, using seer stones in a hat, while he gazed into it.
Exactly. It's like, wow, every detail sounds cinematic. But it wasn't just a neat story. It became the cornerstone for the Book of Mormon, which tells tales of whole civilizations rising and falling, and even Jesus making an appearance in the Americas after his resurrection.
Right on. And critics have been quick to call the whole thing a fraud from the start, saying he, borrowed ideas from local folklore and other books. Yet, millions see him as a prophet, someone who restored true Christianity.
Absolutely, and that's what makes it so intriguing. The blend of radical vision with a dose of American frontier daring. Now, after establishing this new scripture, Joseph Smith's followers, known as saints, officially founded what would eventually become the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1830.
Yep. One of the most controversial parts, though, was how his teachings and practices, like communal economics and even, polygamy, stirred up enormous resistance.
Right, his introduction of polygamy, marrying over 30 women, including teenagers and already married women, is one of those points that has sparked endless debates, and it got them into some serious trouble with local communities driving them out of states like Ohio, Missouri, and Illinois because of those radical ideas.
Yes, and then comes the dramatic climax. While jailed in Illinois, Joseph Smith was murdered by a mob in 1844, and his death left a huge succession crisis.
Right, and that's when Brigham Young stepped in, leading thousands of saints across the plains to what we now know as Utah, forging an entirely new chapter in their story.
Now, when we shift our focus to the core theology, things get even more wild. Mormon theology, as peculiar as it might sound to some, stamps away many ideas that are quite different even from mainstream Christianity.
Indeed. It's like, they believe God the Father actually has a physical body and that humans are pre-mortal spirit children of God who can eventually become gods themselves.
And then there's the idea that Jesus and Lucifer are actually spirit brothers, which, really puts a twist on traditional views.
Exactly. Plus, the thought that the Garden of Eden was in Missouri heaven has, different levels, and that rituals like baptism for the dead can connect the living to those who've passed on.
But isn't it interesting how, even though the church officially renounced polygamy back in 1890, a few fundamentalist groups keep practicing it?
Yeah, it's a point that creates a sort of tension between traditional narratives and modern public perceptions. It shows that while the church rebrands and distances itself from controversial practices, the past, its complexities and downright oddities, still echoes strongly.
Speaking of echoing the past, we can't ignore how issues like race and gender have played out. Until 1978, black men were banned from the priesthood, with the church citing deeply problematic reasons for it.
Right. And even today, the church's efforts on gender roles and LGBTQ+ issues remain contentious, while the institution argues that modern prophets continue to receive divine revelations. There's a lot of critique out there that suggests, these revelations often align with social or legal pressures.
While some argue that such flexibility in doctrine is a sign of adapting to modern society, others see it as a patchwork of historical revisionism.
True. And I think that debate really gets to the heart of why people still adhere to this faith. It's not so much about proving every miraculous detail or historical fact, but rather the kind of emotional and existential fulfillment it provides.
Yeah, exactly. That's a key point. The idea of eternal family, divine purpose, and a comforting moral order. For many, those things outweigh the problematic parts of the origin story.
Right. It's like an emotional glue that holds the construction of belief together despite inconsistencies. And speaking of staying together, the church today is like, wow,
Yeah,
a powerhouse.
absolutely. Beyond just its beliefs, the organizational structure is fascinating. Owning billions in assets, running everything from cattle ranches to shopping malls, and sending out missionaries dressed in crisp suits to corners of the globe.
Exactly. And those missionaries? It's as if they carry a very distinct brand. Clean-cut families, a strong moral code, and that signature optimism.
That's right. But here's a point I'm curious about. How do you reconcile the heavy market presence and political clout with the ongoing internal controversies about historical teachings?
Well, it's a bit of a balancing act. On one hand, the church is very savvy about branding and image management. On the other, the shadow of its uh, more controversial doctrine still lingers in the background. You could say it's trying to be both a modern institution and a custodian of age-old, even if bizarre, revelations.
Yeah, I see that. But don't you think that sometimes the church's distancing from its past can come off as almost, dare I say, disingenuous?
That's a fair point. It does seem like there's a selective memory at play, where some elements are branded as folklore to smooth over the less palatable parts of its history. But for many believers, the emotional resonance and the certainty in personal spiritual experience are what really matter.
Right. And that emotional tie is exemplified by scholars like Richard Bushman, who argue that faith in Mormonism is more about personal fulfillment than historical evidence of golden plates and all that.
Exactly, it's this paradox at the core of Mormonism, a blend of modern reality with mystical traditions, structure with spontaneity, and reason with revelation.
Right on. And it's interesting to see how, even in today's age, a belief system with such outlandish origins can flourish and influence aspects of politics and culture.
Yeah, it's a testament to how the human need for meaning and community can override historical and logical scrutiny. Think of it like an enduring myth, a modern myth that carries a deep cultural and personal significance for over 17 million people worldwide.
That's so true. It's like they say, a story told and retold can become a kind of truth all its own, even if the details defy ordinary logic.
Precisely, and as we wrap our discussion, it's clear that whether you see Mormonism as a brilliant American innovation, a religious eccentricity, or even a sort of divine test of faith, its impact is undeniable.
Yeah, absolutely. It really strikes a chord about what it means to believe. In the end, the question remains, why do people hold on to these stories? Is it because they provide a sense of purpose, community, and, well, a narrative that feels larger than life?
Exactly. And I think that's where the real magic lies. It's not about the evidence in the history books, but the personal and communal experience that continues to resonate across generations.
Spot on. And even though some aspects might raise eyebrows or prompt debates, the Church's ability to evolve and rebrand itself while maintaining a core identity is quite remarkable.
Totally, and that duality of embracing the mystical while engaging with the modern world is really compelling. It shows that even the wildest origin stories can build structures that endure and influence society deeply.
Yeah, exactly. So, whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or just someone fascinated by the weird intersections of religion, history, and culture, the Mormon story is one that challenges conventional boundaries.
Right. It's a narrative of radical visions, dramatic twists, and undeniable resilience. It reminds us that sometimes the power of belief can transform the most bizarre folklore into a large-scale, influential movement.
Yep, indeed. Thanks for diving into this deep and intricate topic with me. It's been quite the ride, exploring how Mormonism's epic tale blends myth and memory, controversy and community.
Definitely. It's been an engaging look at how history, faith, and human desire intersect in unexpected ways. Until next time, keep questioning and keep exploring.
Absolutely.